Great,
Hey,
go
hello
ahead.
everybody. Yep, hello everybody. This is the weekly community meeting for Backdrop. Sorry, bi-weekly. Depending on which part of the world you are, it's either February 1st, Thursday, or Friday, February 2nd. How we usually start these meetings is we go around the room, we do some short introduction before we get into the subject of the meeting. I'll start with myself and then I'll pass it on. My name is Greg. Originally from Greece, but I've spent most of the time of the year in Melbourne, Australia. I work as a Drupal support engineer for the past, well, since 2017. And my passion, my day job has nothing to do with Backdrop, but my Backdrop is my passion, and I love helping in any way that I can. And let's go next to Lauren.
Hello, everyone. So nice to meet you all. I'm Lauren, and I'm with Giant Rabbit, here with Anthony today. I'm a technical strategist, and I'm newer to Backdrop, so my experience has mainly been in Drupal since about Drupal 6 or 7. Looking forward to working with this content management system more and chatting with you all. It's an exciting time.
Let's pass it on to Martin.
Hello, I'm Martin Price, Backdrop web developer in Northeast England. I build Backdrop websites pretty much exclusively and also do quite a few contrib modules. Let's go to Justin.
Hey, I'm Justin Kaiser in Muncie, Indiana. I work for a nonprofit here, and I have a collection of Drupal, Backdrop, and WordPress websites, and I tend to contribute more to Backdrop than Drupal because there's less of us and it's more fun. So let's go to Luke.
I'm Luke McCormick. I'm a web developer, analyst, manager, various things like that in San Ramon, California. I go under Sell Ear on the internets, and I'm involved in all sorts of projects here and there. But I've been kicking around the Backdrop community since the beginning. Let me go to Anthony.
Hi, I'm Anthony Nemirovsky. I work at Giant Rabbit as well. I'm a tech lead there. And I've been at Giant Rabbit for over a decade now. And we've been using Drupal since the very beginning. And we have a whole stable of clients who are on Drupal 7 and are trying to figure out what their path is after that. And so a few months ago, I did some test upgrades to Backdrop for a couple of our sites and was very pleased with the results. And so we've started moving and recommending Backdrop to a lot of our clients now. And we're here to just be a part of the community and starting to share our experience and get info on other people's experience. And let's see, Tim, let's pass it to Tim.
Sure, thanks. My name is Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim on the internet. I've been doing Drupal for about 11, 12 years. I actually followed Backdrop from the start, but kind of got involved in the community later than some other people, but I dove in pretty head first. So I'm on the project management committee and do a lot of stuff here. Very much excited about the work that's being done to make these upgrades easier. So Justin, have you went yet? You did.
Yeah, let's go with Andre, maybe. No, that was Joseph. Yeah.
I'm Joseph, developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm a core committer for Backdrop. Yeah, Andre.
Hi everyone, my name is Andre. I am exploring Drupal 7 to Backdrop migration. Happy to be here. Thank you. Over to Izzy.
Izzy said he's not.
You might be able to hear me. I'm not sure.
Hear you.
I'm Izzy. I'm a freelance developer, Drupal, WordPress, and Backdrop. I'm new to the Backdrop community, and I'm enjoying
Okay,
Yeah, and I
Irina.
think Irina,
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
Irina's last.
Hi, my name is Irina Zaks. I'm web developer and open source evangelist working with various CMSs since a long time ago. Better not to say numbers. My first migration was from Drupal 4.7 directly to Drupal 6. It was a totally fun project. And I've been member of community for many years. Last year, I worked with Drupal 22. I worked with Drupal Association on conversion from to GitLab as a project manager. And most of my projects are in higher ed and nonprofits. And for them, Backdrop is the best match when we're talking about Drupal 7 end of life.
No.
Do we miss anyone's introductions?
I think that's
No,
everybody,
no.
isn't it? Okay.
Yep.
Let me just quickly say, so every week, every 2 weeks, we do a user group meeting about this time. These are recorded. We also have, in about 2 months, we have Backdrop Live coming up, which will be an online Zoom conference that's 2 days. It's early April. Somebody can get the dates. But we're going to talk about Drupal 7 to Backdrop migrations today. In particular, I think the D2B Migrate module. Irina, I think, is going to take over, right? You're ready to take over, Irina?
Yep.
And maybe repeat a little of that nice introduction you were giving before we started recording. Whatever you think. So go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to do the demo and to talk about making migrations over Drupal 7 easier for community. I'm going to skip I'm going to start with the actual demo of the D2B module. My understanding that everyone who is here is pretty familiar with general concepts of upgrades, what's different between Drupal 7 and Drupal 7, Drupal 10, and Backdrop. I have published a couple of articles on Pantheon and in my blog. And today my goal is to do the demo. It's going to be live demo, so most likely it's going to fail. First, I'm going to show a couple of sites that we migrated for Stanford University. So this is a live site for Professor Bernheim, and we're using it in our demo. We have recorded, here's a recorded demo, so you can see all the details and go through some recorded steps if you have interest in that. So this is the live site. This is a result of migration. We were able to do this migration in with a very competitive bid and within budgets that are reasonable for smaller projects. You can
Irina jinxed it.
want to do. We still might want to fix. This is another example. This is for
Irina, we lost you for.
Yeah, sorry, Irina, we lost you for a few seconds there. You dropped out, like maybe last 10 seconds.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure what happened. I was showing, so this is Drupal 7 site. This is a Backdrop site here for for professor's site, which is pretty elaborate. It has a couple of content types. It has lots of views. And this is another example of migrating a reasonably complex site for the research center, which has standard for academia combination of publications, awards, people, references, And all this has been migrated. It all migrated very nicely into Backdrop site. So these are start, before and after thing.
Today, Irina,
yes.
You at the beginning you mentioned that so people understand this process. I think a lot of people, including myself, at the beginning are confused by the difference between an upgrade and a migration. And you're using the word migrate a lot, where I think we're actually doing an upgrade, right?
Yeah.
And the difference, or do you want to explain the difference? Because I do think there might be somebody here who doesn't get that, and it's important.
Yes, I think this is very important, and that would be also very important introduction and context if we write something for the drop times. Words migration and upgrade are used in the colloquial language interchangeably. Very few people, when you talk to marketing people, to content owners, they don't have very clear differentiation. You can say, we're going to migrate your site, or we're going to upgrade your site. For non-technical people, these are very close terms, and this is where it can become very confusing when you talk to developers. So when we're saying upgrade, upgrade is a term that is very well understood. We're upgrading from Backdrop 126 to 127. We click one button, everything is upgraded. When we're talking about moving off Drupal 7, lots of people perceive it migration, even though what Backdrop allows you to do is to take existing database and simply import it into Backdrop site, run the upgrade, and we're going to talk in details about this upgrade process. So terminology is very important, and I think that I will put more effort into writing it up when we're going to have some text that accompanies this video.
Well, I would just say, for me, the real quick distinction is with a migration, you're kind of creating a new site and moving the data from the old database into the new site. So it's really kind of a fresh site. With an upgrade, you're just taking the existing database and modifying it to say work in Backdrop.
Yep, totally. So we're going to attempt to do the live demo, which is always lots of fun. We're going to do it today on my local machine. Hopefully, it should be open already, but let me see where it is. So this is existing site. I designed it, I put it up to just for today's demo. It has different content types, it has profiles, it has displays, it has blog, and it has custom theme. I set up new Backdrop site. I pre-installed a module called Drupal to Backdrop Migrate to skip all this installation process. This is brand new, out-of-the-box empty site. And nothing in there. So when I enable, so we're going to attempt in the next 7 minutes, migrate the site and see how it goes. So once I enabled the module, now I have link. Thank you. I want to thank very much everyone who contributed. And special thanks to Doc Wilmot and Nate for creating the release so people can get a second release, so people can get it and install it. Because module is still in development, and that's something I'm going to put into notes. At this time, I recommend downloading the code rather than installing through the UI, because there are still some new things are coming in all the time. So here I'm going to connect to my local database that I have for Drupal 7. Here we go. There's my database host name. I'm using MAMP, which makes it simple. And then the next thing I'm doing, I'm connecting. I want to update projects. And this is the part that makes migration much simpler. Not simpler, but much quicker and simpler. Because in the original path, we're saying step 1, run Backdrop upgrade module on your Drupal 7 site. Somewhere here. All right, we love demos. And it will give you the long green list of this is available, this is not available, this is in core. And then you can write it down, and then you can set drush commands, and you can make it work. But this is something that can be completely automated, especially in the age of AI. So it doesn't sound very efficient to do all this manually. So this has been automated. And this is something that makes this module, I'd say, cutting edge and revolutionary. Because here I can see what modules are available. If something has been disabled at source, it wouldn't, you wouldn't need to download it. Makes your life much easier. I did run this migration before, so I have some modules that are already downloaded. And I also have some modules that are not downloaded because they were disabled at source. Like, I don't need people, I don't need better formats. I can say, let's add computed field and click download available modules. It's most likely going to break now, but let's see, maybe it won't. So at this point, it's downloading module. Whoops, it didn't break. You know, we scored at least one. And then next thing we do is we're saying, okay, let's copy files. It is not it's not the most efficient UI for a variety of reasons, including challenge with migrating private files. And it's very quickly and very efficiently if you want to simply drop zipped files into your directories, it works much better. And then this is the critical step. So what just happened replaces button in the backup and migrate where we do restore. If you have used backup and migrate modules before, then you know how you restore. You can restore via UI. So this has just happened already, and now the database has been imported already, and this is the moment when we run the database update, upgrade, the one that Tim mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. And here I click apply pending updates. And let's see what's going to happen. So what it tells me, let me look at the homepage. Looks pretty similar to what I have in here. Oops, nope, this is the wrong site. These are some things that you would see if you begin clicking, like some of us, like me, like to click in random places. And so we get a lot of errors. If I want to rerun core update again and see what's happening, I still see 6 pending updates. This is an interesting thing where on the first update, user module is not being updated. I don't know whether it's a bug or a feature or whatever it is. But now I click here. I see my users, whoever was there. I see my content. It's there. I see my view. Oh, I see my structure views that I had here. But something I don't see is I can't install any other modules. And the reason is because in Backdrop, you install using Project Installer. And that is something that allows you to upload modules and themes if you want to do it in UI without using DevTools. And then here I can, okay, I need new theme. None of these themes work for me. I need my Stanford theme. If I remember where I put it, that would be great. Decanter, projects, nope, documents, no. Anyway, so here I can enable my new theme or work with existing theme. I can also add theme in the code directly. And then when I go here, let me go to the home. So the only thing that I would need to do now is drop files in the system. That kind of concludes working demo, and I can happy to talk about also things that didn't work or bugs that we've been experiencing, or open the community conversation, questions, other things, code updater, everything.
Wasn't there something in the UI for that was supposed to get files where you entered the URL, and does that not work?
To be honest, I didn't even test it. The reason why I am not worried about it, because if we get files through URL, similarly to one-click migration to Drupal 10, you can only access public files. Most sites that we're working them, at least some files are sitting in the private directory. And out of everything that's happening in migrations or upgrade, dropping, zipped files and unzipping them on the site is the quickest and simplest step.
I think we have tried that feature and it's been a bit buggy. So that's, in my experiments too, I've just skipped over that step. Because the auto moving of the files doesn't work very well. So, but
is it the bit that Irina mentioned about the private directory?
I don't
because
remember. I don't remember. I just know it doesn't work, and so we've skipped it over.
Okay.
I think it's more. I think it's more than that. I don't think I could get any files over.
Okay, fair enough. Because briefly, as Irina was showcasing, I saw that there was only one field for specifying the URL of the source site, whereas if we wanted to grab private files, there should be some authentication, some fields to authenticate against the site.
Right. So while this is called the D2B Migrate module, the point I made earlier is actually this is an upgrade process, right? It's just helping you do that upgrade process easier. Pulling the database into the new site. The biggest thing that it does is what Irina pointed out, the getting all the modules for you, right? That's such a big help and makes the process so much easier. What it doesn't obviously do is do anything with the theme, right? But this gets you through, okay, you've got your new Backdrop site, you've got all the data, all the modules there, all the views, everything. Now you just have to figure out the theme part.
Which is a great segue into talking about theme updater, code updater, and other tools, and maybe some questions or comments from Anthony or Lauren or Bronius, welcome, or Joseph, whoever has comments or questions about what's important in migrations, what's in there, what's missing, how we can improve the process, what people are looking for.
The other thing I noticed was that you only had one. There was the admin user had a role, but the others didn't seem to have any roles.
Yes.
Is that something that's not working yet?
Yes, that is a very interesting thing that is happening. So now when I refresh it, would load. So very interesting thing that is happening, which is not super clear. It has been happening consistently on most sites, but not all of them. So this administrator role is a role that came from Drupal, this one. This administrator role is something that we had inside Backdrop original database. So when we're running this upgrade, what happens is in configuration, content authoring, where do we have people?
User accounts. User accounts.
So
There you go.
here in roles, what I usually do is, and this is very interesting. So machine name is 3, and it is the way it was configured in Drupal 7. And I would usually say read administrator, something like migrated or Drupal 7 or something like this. Sometimes this is one of these big challenges that we're looking at. Sometimes new administrator and old administrator will have all permissions, but some sites have more complex permission set. And this is the reason why in one of my description, I said, please make sure that you have original, I don't remember if I put it here or not. Sometimes you have to log in with a D7 admin login because the Backdrop login might not have access to everything. And you might easily get stuck in the situation where you can't access things. So this is why and because we're doing upgrade, not migration, both password and login will remain the same, which is great. So when you're migrating sites for other people, it's important that they don't have to reset accounts. But here, users that were, if somebody would have been administrator of Drupal 7, not necessarily they will have same level of permissions. So this is, to me, one of the bugs that can be worked around. It would be great if it can be fixed in the module, in the upgrade process. And super important thing that I want to emphasize here, D2B is just UI that makes things quicker and more efficient. And it's pretty much bug-free. The bugs that we're seeing are usually coming from the upgrade process. Right. And these bugs pop up as people use upgrade, and some modules, when on the upgrade, they break. Like I had, on one of the sites, I had problem with redirect module, and on one project, I had problems with URL aliases. We can try to upgrade them today, but there are still a lot of challenges in this migration process, but it would be, and the more developers we have that can benefit from the existing module and the time that they can save in this, from the module, if they can dedicate towards fixing bug in the upgrade process, world is usually better with open source on these situations.
From a community,
do we have an existing issue for this specific bug for the roles not being properly moved over?
Well, can we clarify first of all? I think Martin's question was a little different than Irina's answer. Irina, you pointed out the bug between 2 administrator roles. I feel like that's been known for a long time. But I think did your original site have other roles? If there were an editor role, does the upgrade process handle that okay?
I think looks like she's frozen.
I think so.
I think the core update process.
Can try it right now, but my experience was it was working pretty well.
Okay, so we're not having problems upgrading roles in general, just that problem with the administrator role. with duplicates.
So I have a question about
Sure.
the module. I haven't looked at it before. Does it, so you're taking an existing Drupal 7, or you're taking a Drupal 7 database and importing it into an existing Backdrop site, correct?
Mhm.
So what does it do with the configuration files in the existing Backdrop site? Because you have a config directory already that has stuff in it.
I think that it's overwriting it. It's an excellent question. I don't have an answer, but now that you've asked it, I can test what is
Okay.
happening.
Because so the way that the roles are stored in Backdrop is we have a config file per role,
Right.
and each of those config files contains the list of permissions that they have. So probably the existing files are not being overwritten because it's creating new files for each role. And because it's using the role ID from Drupal 7 as the machine name, so it would never conflict with an existing role that's created in the original Backdrop site.
That sounds like an excellent analysis. So because we have recording, then maybe we can convert this analysis into an issue and add it on Drupal 7. I mean, on the GitHub.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, for the most part, really, the administrator role is the one we're worried about, right? Any custom roles we're not going to have that problem with because there are no existing files. And the new editor role, there could be situations, we have a new default editor role in Backdrop that other people may have, they may have created their own editor role on their old site and we'll end up with duplicates there. But I don't know that I see that as a bug because they're really separate roles and you can just delete the Backdrop role and keep the one that you imported.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I would probably recommend modifying the module to delete the config directory when it runs the update script so that there's nothing there. Because that'll fix this in all potential future cases where we're converting numeric IDs to machine names.
Okay. Well, we'll talk.
Yeah, or the other idea that I had is that at the very least, what Irina did manually, we can do via the module. So if we find roles that have similar labels, I'm not talking about the machine names, at least we can tag one of them, coming from source or something like that. Rename so that it's obvious and you don't have duplicates, or apparently duplicates. They're not duplicates, basically. So what Irina did there as a manual step, maybe we can do it as part of the process in the module. Makes it easier. Same if there's an existing editor role in D7 and we have the default role in Backdrop. We could at least change the labels to make sense of what is what, if not able to seamlessly merge the permissions and merge these roles.
Okay.
Sounds great. This is great to have like working session at the user group. I'm gonna do another attempt on the demo on the different version where instead of connecting to the host, we're uploading file that was created by Backdrop, by Migrate and Backdrop.
Backup and Migrate.
Sorry. This is really great to have this wonderful combination of words that I'm like, okay, this is this one or that one. It is very similar to connected to host, except that some users, for most people, it's much easier to get backup and migrate backup and download it than to get information about host database. For those who are not like those who are not developers, it's usually easier. So this is terrific that we now have both options working. In December, we had a very interesting, very uplifting discussion where some people say, oh no, this is not really possible. It's a huge job. We don't know if it's done. And this is absolutely amazing community and people are enthusiastic about things that they're doing. And in less than a month, it's up and running. And so from here, I'm gonna skip to the upgrade because this is the most important part. And Joseph, what I've done is I opened my files directory. So I'm going to see if what has been overwritten and what remains. And that might be a great test right away. Like, for example, this is like interesting things that is a little challenging, and I'm not sure why it's happening, why user module, why it's I'd say almost always stuck on upgrading user. And
So
now because
I suspect that the user module upgrade that happens immediately prior to the one listed at the top probably had an error, had a fatal error. And so it just stopped processing the user module.
One of the
most likely,
exciting
yes.
one of the exciting parts about having this module is that I think we can get more people experimenting with the upgrade process and reporting bugs. It's sort of much easier now to, in theory, you know, what I did was I used Lando for local development. I spun up a Drupal 7 Lando instance of a Drupal 7 site. I created a new Backdrop site in Lando, and I was able to connect the two and just pull the database in, download all the things, the modules, and then get to that update process much easier. And that gives us more opportunities to sort of run through the upgrade process, find bugs in it, and hopefully report those so we can get those fixed for other people. So each successive attempt gets easier.
And Joseph, thank you very much for hitting it on the nail. I'm looking at my directory and I can clearly see which JSON files were modified and which there are not. So, you know, half of the problem is, I can't say it's solved, but you've identified exactly what is happening and where upgrade process needs to be adjusted. And here you can see the editor role. What I would like to see if it also preserved, yep, and it preserved permissions exactly the way it was.
Okay.
So there are some interesting caveats during migration. For example, feeds module in Backdrop requires job scheduler, and it is not required in Drupal 7. And this is where like change in dependencies between Drupal 7 and Backdrop creates some challenges, because when we start migration, some modules are missing. It's possible to overcome, but it would be nice to also automate that.
Irina made a recommendation earlier in her presentation about downloading the module or the code directly instead of using the project browser. And I just want to clarify with what I think she's getting at there is to download it directly from GitHub so that you have the dev branch, because this is being actively developed. So there might be fixes in the dev branch on GitHub that you won't get if you download it directly through the project browser. Is that that's what you were getting at, right, Irina? Yeah.
Before we move on to the other tools, because we said we're going to talk about the other tools that help with immigration, like the coder upgrade that helps you adjust the code of the 7 modules, etc. And sorry if I'm putting you in the spot, Anthony. You mentioned that you had some experience, like you tested some upgrades. Maybe we can spend a few minutes for you just saying what your experience was like.
Yeah. We've got one live already. It's probably the smallest site that we have. And I don't know if there's chat, but it doesn't matter. It's a Drupal website that became a Backdrop website. And so it looks identical as it did before, pretty much, a couple minor differences. We have probably about 4 or 5 in progress right now. The largest one is pretty big, usenix.org, and probably about 40 or 50 content types and Drupal commerce and Salesforce integration and a bunch of stuff like that. And so that's going to take months for us to complete. The one I'm working on right now is going to take months as well. And it's going really well though. I mean, we've done Drupal 10 migrations from Drupal 7 in the past. And it is like night and day because for a fraction of the amount of effort, even though the theme doesn't necessarily port over very easily, depending on the circumstances of the original theme, you do end up with a site that functions pretty closely to how it functioned in Drupal 7, much more rapidly than you could hope to achieve in Drupal 10, which has been the main selling point for us for why we're recommending this to a lot of our clients. And it's been very smooth. I think the tool, Irina, that you showed is awesome. It's probably not going to work for most of our sites just because what ends up happening is a lot of our sites have modules that haven't been ported yet. And so we're also undertaking the process of porting a bunch of contrib modules to Drupal and are starting to submit those back to Backdrop contrib to take over maintenance and support of those. And so we're at the very beginning of that, but there's probably at least a dozen that we'll be doing, if not more. So that sort of makes that tool hard because the upgrade doesn't run smoothly until those modules have at least been ported, at least the functionality that we're using on the site. But yeah, that's how it's been going. I'm happy to answer any other questions if people have it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point actually, and I'm not sure. I have not thought of that, but what happens with the custom modules that are in place? So if we were to automate, like in an ideal world where we ported every popular module, and what you just mentioned, Anthony, was not a blocker. I'm assuming that the custom modules that you had would be a blocker. So you would need to have an intermediate step where you test those modules outside of that site and you put them in place before you run the updates or something like that.
Yeah,
that's an interesting point.
Yeah, we right now what we end up doing is multiple rounds of the upgrade, to just test the ports, just like the documentation says. And I also say the documentation has been really excellent too, which has been very useful. But it's that, and then also we have some specific requirements about how our code goes into Git that would require another intermediary step. It's not deal breaker, but honestly, I think this tool is really useful for folks who are less comfortable on the command line, and I think it's a great tool for that. And that it's just not it's not solving the problems that we're having right now, which are mostly porting modules and theme porting. Those are the ones that are the most time consuming for us.
You mentioned something that you had like a handful of websites that are either in the pipeline or you sort of like have done partially, or one of them you mentioned. If you, and I know that it's not a great amount of data that you have, but if you empirically had to put a number in sort of like the time it saves you, like a rough percentage and an estimate, just because you said night and day, but can you put some numbers there?
Sure. Yeah. We don't have a lot of comparison data. So what we've done a lot is done estimates because we're having to inform clients that this is coming down the pipe. And so we've done both Backdrop estimates and Drupal 10 estimates based off of our experience. And the numbers generally come out to like anywhere from like a fifth of the cost to a third of the cost, depending on how much custom functionality needs to be ported over. And I think I don't have data to say if those numbers are going to hold or not, or what they're going to look like. My hope is that the Backdrop numbers will go down because our experience with what's required for porting will continue to grow, and we'll get more, just better at that and faster at that. But ask me in 6 months, and I'll have some real numbers to be able to share.
It was a trick. It was a trick question that because this is being recorded, so that we can refer back to this after a while. That's why. So it's on record now.
No
we
problem.
can compare.
Sounds good.
Cool. Thanks,
Anthony. It's going to be July. I'm marking July 1 action item. Email Anthony. With question.
I'll share all the
upgrade.
information that we have. No problem. Yep.
Can you, Anthony, put you on the spot one more time? You mentioned using the D7 compatible theme.
Yes.
Was that helpful for you?
Yeah. So this was a site. This site is currently being tested by the client before it ends up going live. I don't know if there's a chat feature here, but I can paste it here so folks can see what it is. Give me 1 second to see if I can
There is chat, by the way, so you should be able to access the chat in the bottom.
Aha, I found it. Perfect. Okay, so this should take everybody right to the in progress. This is not launched yet. It's the future website. This is Backdrop. And if you take away all the stuff before ibisreproductivehealth.org, you'll get to the current Drupal 7 website. It's not a complex website, but where it does have some complexity is in the theme, because it is a Zen child theme. And I don't know what the current port status is of Zen, but for the most part, we've stopped using it for most of our clients. I think a lot of people have moved away from it over the last 5 or 6 years. So what I ended up doing was I basically just started with Zen as it was at the time at which that site, the theme was built, and then I made Zen a child theme of the D7 compatible theme, and then I made the custom theme. I just left it as a child theme of Zen, and most of the changes I think were pretty easy. The main thing is just the changes that have to happen to the layouts, because now Backdrop uses layouts, and then changing the preprocess HTML and preprocess page functions, because they get access to different things now in and they're named differently in Backdrop. So, but I think it maybe took me like 3 or 4 hours of work. It was really remarkably fast to make those changes. And I had a little bit of styling changes that I had to make just for some markup that had minorly shifted, but it was really pretty darn straightforward. This is like a perfect example of the site that I think Backdrop benefits from, or that the client benefits from hugely from Backdrop, because they never in a million years would have enough money to move to Drupal 10. And so I think we're gonna land somewhere around 30-ish hours of work to port this. This is the very first site I did in Backdrop as well, so there's a lot of learning time there. But I think the actual work, if I take away the learning time, was around 30 hours of work, which is, it's not nothing, but it's way less than anything Drupal 10 would be.
And so far, your experience with maybe mention the top goods and top bads of you working with layouts, like the first impressions. Any feedback?
I like it. My dream would have been that there would have been a layer of backwards compatibility that could have just allowed the theme to work, and an opt-in for layouts rather than a requirement for it, because it really is the wrench in a lot of the upgrade paths for our clients. And so that's it basically. Other than that, I think we haven't had enough experience to say, how much we're actually going to benefit from using layouts. Conceptually, it seems nice and flexible, but again, once we start using it more, I'll be able to circle back and say, love it, or here's the issues that I'm having with it. Yeah.
I could be wrong. Laren's not here, who works at Atten, but I believe that Atten, when they did that big Stanford upgrade, I assume you guys have looked at that, their sort of case study.
Yep, we read the case study, yeah.
I want to believe that they actually found a way to bypass the layout system to do what you're talking about.
Would love to talk to Laren about that. Yes.
So you might want to check with them. I mean, Laren wasn't working with them when they did that site, but he would know what they did.
Yeah, I started looking into it a bit, and then just ran out of time. But I would love to find out more details about that.
I think for the same reasons that you brought that up. Go ahead.
When is next user group? Maybe it can be a subject for our next user group discussion in 2 weeks.
Well, we have another topic scheduled, but we have them every 2 weeks. We can definitely look at trying to get that on the agenda.
Yeah,
actually, I think Laren's supposed to talk in 2 weeks about image optimization in 2 weeks.
Well, we can call layouts image optimization. Just join in 2 weeks, and you'll get your answers quicker rather than later.
We could definitely allow time for a quick Q&A on that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying that I recalled the same thing as Tim. I just didn't have the details, the information about the agency and the people that did it, but I vaguely remember that we had some sort of dump everything in a single region. Or I can't remember the specifics about it, but there was a way to.
Okay, Joseph's got an answer.
What you can do is you can take, and I think this is what they did, but I can't remember. But you can take your page.tpl.php file and put it in a layout template and then create a new set of regions that exactly matches your old themes set of regions. And then you just make that your default layout template, and it should apply, like all of your CSS should just apply to it as if it was the old Drupal 7 way.
Yeah, I did that. The part that I could figure out was how to get it to use the default layout as part of the upgrade process, because I think what ended up happening was I created that layout, matched exactly all the same regions, all the same markup, but once the upgrade happened, it didn't place the blocks automatically in those regions because it was using a different default layout, and I couldn't figure out how to get it to like use my layout as the default layout during the upgrade process. So that's the part that I'm really hoping there's a way to do that. That would be great.
Did it have all your blocks in the layout though?
It did, but they were all in different regions because the default layout it was using was the one that is Backdrop's default, and so the blocks were there and I could just replace them. It's not a huge deal, but it is one of those, like, it would be nice if it didn't have to do that. The thing that I think would be difficult about it though, unless I'm misunderstanding things, again, we're still at the early stages of digging into this stuff, is that I think blocks in Drupal 7, there's some contextual information you can provide for when it renders, like the paths and things like that. And I think that those have now moved more to the layout level than the per block layout level. And that feels like a pretty different paradigm to me. So I'm not sure how that gets. Yeah.
You can still apply visibility
can.
conditions to
Okay.
individual blocks.
Cool. Yeah. So great. I'm gonna dig into this a bunch and ask Laren, because that would be awesome if that worked.
Okay. It really also heavily depends on themes naming. If the new theme has exactly the same name as an old theme, things go a little smoother than when it's completely different name. Because I migrate, so if I have like Bartik to Bartik or Stanford framework to Stanford framework, lots of things are there's less clicks to adjust things. And also it heavily depends on which blocks you have. If you're like, we used to use a lot of beans blocks, which are different from regular blocks, which are slightly different from views blocks. And depending if we use context module or panels, results will be significantly different.
Yeah, I think
it would be really lovely to have more automation.
Yeah, I think by default the updater uses the what is it, the Simmons layout, which is a duplication of Bartik's layout from Drupal 7. So
it is Simmons, yeah.
I don't know how we would automate that, because we kind of have to make a ton of assumptions when we're converting it.
I'm going to interject quick. We're almost at the hour. Normally every Thursday at this time we have a weekly dev meeting, which, if you're interested in core issues, if you're having problems with bugs in core, feel free to come to any of our weekly meetings that would be starting now and talk about those, or just come by to chat and say hi to us. Everybody's welcome at those meetings. Nate's not here yet though, so we can keep going for a few more minutes, but when Nate gets here, we'll probably have to transition to that meeting. I do want to mention, because Irina talked about it earlier, we haven't talked about the Coder Upgrader module, which I think I'm just going to quickly give a blurb for that. We won't really have time to demo it or talk about it, but if anybody here is unaware of that module, it's a module for Backdrop CMS that you install in a Backdrop CMS site. You create a folder in the files directory, and you can drop a Drupal 7 module into that directory, and then you can use, through your UI, you can say upgrade that module, and it goes through and does some really basic things about replacing, making some changes to the .info file. It replaces some commonly, from Drupal to Backdrop, things like that. And very often, simple Drupal 7 modules will work just after you do that. That's all you have to do, and they work. Even more complex modules, that might get you a lot of the way there, but then you just have to, take the Coder Upgrade module and finish it. So you know, for those of you who are relatively new to our community, we continue to see, you know, probably at least 1 or 2 Drupal 7 ports of modules every week. Sometimes it's going faster than that. If people like you are around working on a project, we might see flurries where we're getting more than that. But there is, you know, they're coming all the time. My team is just starting to work on the domain access module, if anybody's interested in that. There are some big ones that haven't been ported yet that are going to take more effort. But the little ones are coming all the time. So anyways, there, it looks like Jen and Nate joined us. So any last comments on our the previous meeting or final questions? So 2 weeks from now, Laren is supposed to be talking about image optimization in Backdrop, and maybe we can plug him, allow a little bit of time for questions on other things while he's here. Currently on our agenda, the 2 weeks after that, we're going to talk about themes, and the idea was just to sort of do a survey and look at the status of contrib themes in Backdrop right now. I did a video and a sort of a presentation on the top 10 current themes, you know, how they differ, what they're good at. It'll be sort of an open discussion, and then March 14th would be three meetings from now. We have open. So if anybody has ideas, we need topics once we get out about 3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, and before we close, I really want to quickly thank everyone, and also we mentioned Backdrop Live, which is the event that is happening in the beginning, but we didn't mention the dates.
Yeah.
The dates where this is happening is April 4th and 5th. This is a great opportunity to have discussions about these things and sessions specific to specific topics.
And I believe registration is live, so you can register for that today. Okay. If that's it, we're going to stop the recording now. Bye, everybody.